knows that he's missing, and there's a chance that if someone could see him and not even realize who he is. So we want to get his face out there because we want him home.
Surprisingly, even locally, there are some folks that don't even know what's going on, and it's kind of like a shocker. Like, how do you not know? You know, it is amazing because in the past couple weeks, you've got 2 cases. A 15-year-old boy that has vanished without a trace. You've got a 22-year-old, 6'4" or 7" college kid from Missouri who has vanished without a trace. That's a huge significance here. That it's like, wow, how? So
It's scary.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jill, for getting this to my attention on Twitter. And even if I have already examined an interview, that doesn't mean I have gotten to every part. And it's always useful for me to see what strikes others as strange. And this particular interview, or this particular part of the interview, of course, is one of those where things don't seem right. And as it is often the case, I notice a million things. Not a million things, of course, it's exaggeration. That's part of my pattern, I guess, my speech pattern. A lot of things that are not right. And immediately I recognize it's not right. But while I'm listening to an entire interview or segment of it, I don't immediately analyze the details of every single part of it. And I have said it before, I've never seen a case with as many red flags without an arrest having been made yet. I have never seen it. I have never seen somebody get on the air as much as Proudfoot, even though he's in a glass house. And by the way, Cassie Bowersox, somebody told her that she's sitting in a glass house, and she said, my glass house is just fine. Cassie Bowersox acknowledges that she is sitting in a glass house. If I said to you, don't throw stones when you're sitting in a glass house, you would say, what the hell do you mean? What do I have to hide? If you didn't do anything. If you had nothing to do with it. If you would be just as baffled as you should be because somebody makes a comment that you're sitting in a glass house. What does it mean? It means you're guilty of something. It means that whatever you're saying, because you're going on the offense, and Cassie Bowersox is a nasty and a sneaky one who constantly finds a way to say something bad about people. Constantly. When you examine any of her statements, you would call it probably an undertone. But when she talked about, which I think actually it's a lie, she said Seth was already there when he arrived at Sebastian's home. And what's crazy is that Melissa Proudfoot said, we have been searching since 6:30 that morning, where the call came in 6:33 to the whatever got law enforcement going. And Seth, when did he receive the call? He got off work, right? Around 7? And it took him, an hour to get there? So, Melissa Proudfoot, if your family and the Bowersoxes were up, they could have driven there very quickly and been there long before Seth. So why does she feel the need? Why did she feel the need to say Seth was already there when she got there? That may go back to the claim that Cassie Bowersox was seen at worships. What was it, 5:30 in the morning? I need to know more about that. Somebody said Crabtree or something. Talked about it before, long time ago. I don't know. You see, that's why I think it's extremely important to stay away from too many channels and segments and use people for what they're good for. Use the channels for what they're good for. A prime example to me is the interview room. Use them for the interview because they get good interviews. Do not waste your time on their analyses. I have an example for you later. I think Chris Mcdana is very good at getting interviews and ingratiating himself into the circles of certain people who later hate him. And it's cringy how he uses self-deprecating so-called humor to get this interview with Hunter, then 15 years old. But the interview was, he asks questions, open-ended questions, and he lets them talk. And that was excellent. And I believe I know what happened in the Summerverse case because of that, and partially because of also his interview with Candace at the waterhole, and one particular statement that she made at her home, which I will get into later a little bit more, when she said Summer got up like nothing. She got up. She got up like nothing. Remember that? So, what Cassie Barasak said, Seth was already sitting in his truck smoking a cigarette on his phone. So there's a little bit of a distancing language when you say his phone. On the phone would be more appropriate because he's supposed to be trying to solve the case just as you are. You're supposed to be on the same team, right? So, what is the problem? On his phone, he's doing his thing. And she had to mention that Seth was smoking. Why did she feel the need to say that? Everything that Cassie Bowersox says has a lot of negative accusations towards people, be it about Seth, be it about Sebastian, and it's a constant thing. There's a constant sense of negativity in those people. And I have no doubt that they know what happened to Sebastian. No doubt. Zero doubt. So they're going on the offense and they're trying to tell everybody else what they're doing wrong. So we want to get his face out there because we want him home. I agree with you. You want his face to be out there. Everything has to point far away from your home. And you told us before, don't let his face fall to the bottom of the feed. You want to get his face out there because, why do you say because? Why do you feel a need to explain why you want his face out there? Does a mother of a missing child need to explain to us that she wants her child home. It's okay to say, I want my son home, but she says it again and again and again. It's a tagline. It loses its meaning. It's repetitive. Listen to what Seth said. Listen to Seth speaking. I just want my son. He's my son. He can't go into details because everything is stopped by what he's feeling. Are you satisfied with what law enforcement has been doing? My son is not home. That was before Tony Mattis came in. And of course, now it's a whole different story where Tony Mattis wants to get him to claim on the air that law enforcement is looking at somebody and they're getting close. Wrong, false, misleading, deceptive. The real Seth I like to listen to when it comes to this. I'm not going to listen to a long, drawn out whatever. Back to Chris Mcdana. His segments are very long. And initially, I thought he just wants to drag him out because the more he drags it out, the longer people view and the more money he will make. But then I realized that his analyses, especially when it comes to John Benet Ramsey, and I haven't actually watched that part, but some of you have told me that he said it couldn't have been Burke because Burke wouldn't, a 9-year-old wouldn't have been able to cover up, or we were involved in the, what did John Ramsey say? The cover up. We were involved, that he wouldn't have been able to cover it up. No, dumbass. Burke wouldn't have been the one covering it up. And I have just told you guys, I'd have just written down even in my last video what the embedded confession by John Ramsey was. And the John Ramsey confession was, he said the police theory is that, and after the word that, and compared it to the Jerry McCain embedded confession, that Burke hit his sister and killed her, and we, to protect him, staged all that strangulation, ransom note craziness. I think I got it pretty close. So he's told us that the strangulation thing is crazy and staged. And the ransom note, of course, as well. I'm sure it was Patsy's idea. And he knows it's crazy, but he had nothing else to, he had no better idea at the time. And he let her. So if it's true that Chris Mcdana said, yeah, that couldn't have been Burke because he wouldn't have been able to stage all of that. What the hell are you talking about? And I'm saying this, I'm actually inclined to believe it because I could not suffer through all of his segments. But the entire then 15-year-old Hunter interview, I watched it several times. The ones with Candace, I think twice I watched it too. And other parts, I watched certain parts I watched 3 or 4 times just to make sure I actually heard what I heard. And then I click on transcribe to make sure that Google agrees with me, YouTube agrees with me actually. Because certain statements are very significant. And just for the record, I don't think there was any wrongdoing in the Summerville's case. Hunter talked, she went underwater 10-15 seconds. There was something that happened. Candace introduced her hitting her head on rocks. Hunter said nothing about that. She said, well, Hunter claims that she hit her head on the rocks, and I say, oh my God, yeah, that would explain why she may have been underwater for 10, 15 seconds. Hunter jumped in and got her out, and he was asked, what did Candace do? He said Candace and her mother were just yapping. They were on the phone looking at stuff and talking. So would that be negligence? Criminal negligence? I don't think so. But Candace Wells and her husband were, of course, in and out of prison, and the kids lived in terrible conditions. And they didn't want police in the house. They didn't want. Well, they knew also. Candace probably figured if this goes to trial, and the jury sees evidence of how our children live, how our lifestyle is, they may throw the book at us because they probably think, you know what, these types of people just need to be locked up. And first of all, the other kids need to be taken away from them, which I think happened by now. I think shortly after had to happen, you know, especially since she invited Chris Mcdana into her house and he actually filmed. Didn't he film like, or did he describe it? He filmed part of it, how the children lived, how they lived in that house. And he has a way with certain types of people to get them to invite him in the houses and so on and so on. You know, he's talking about Hunter all the time. Oh yeah, it's because I'm old, right? I'm old. He's making stupid jokes about how he's and when somebody comes at me like with self-deprecating humor, I immediately turn away. I shut off. I stop speaking immediately because I know they have an agenda. But the question is what Chris McDonald's agenda was. And one of them, of course, came clear when he asked Hunter what should be done to the person who did this. Something like that. Who is responsible for this? If somebody's responsible for this. And he said they should go away for a very long time. And that, of course, shows me that Hunter was a part of his suspect pool. This is a question you ask somebody who's, okay, at least a person of interest, of strong interest, whom you have not cleared yet. So this type of agenda-driven ingratiation, the same when somebody is ingratiating with the 911 call, too much. Hello, hi. Is this police? Yes, hello. And or say thank you and please too many times when they're too nice to law enforcement while their child is missing, right? All of that is a flag, man. If somebody's too nice to you and it doesn't make sense and it doesn't feel right, be very cautious. Be very cautious. Look at the rest of their statements that they're making because they will tell you within their statements what they actually want and what they actually really think about you, which can be another thing. That he may look at Hunter and the mother and the grandmother, and they were like 400 pounds or something like that, and they, maybe he wanted to hide what he really thinks about the people and pretend that he likes them or whatever. And also, I don't think he's paying people for the interviews, but these interviews make him a lot of money. A lot. And of course, it wouldn't be appropriate to pay people who are witnesses for their statements. It could significantly cause them to make more out of a story because maybe they'll say, oh, heck, man, this was easy money for me. I want part two. I want people to come back to me and give me some more money. He bought them pizza or something. But still, in the back of his mind, it has to be he is significantly financially benefiting from this. And the last thing he wants is for Hunter and his family to know I don't know how they are with money, but they're not rich, I think. So they could have used it, but you can always say, well, who knows what they spend their money on. So, anywho, I hope that some of what I'm saying is resonating with you guys when it comes to every single day life, because we deal with deception on an every single day basis, especially at work, which is why I don't simply go by whatever statement I'm attacking at the moment. I'm stretching it out because I want people to not only memorize the rules of statement analysis, I want everybody to actually connect it to their own lives. Think about when you lied. What kind of language did you use? Think about when somebody really disappointed you or let you down. Think about when somebody misled you. Think back at the language they were using. Look at old emails from people. That has been very helpful to me, especially when you now know the outcome a couple of years later. Statement analysis is not only useful for criminology and to detect deception, it is wonderful to detect intention. The red flaggery is absolutely intense when it comes to Chris Proudfoot's, the gift that keeps on giving, but also the gift that keeps on taking away from your sanity if you listen too much. So he said, it's amazing. Remember when he also talked about amazing, when he used the term amazing, he said, when the truth comes out, it will be amazing. Amazing. And after that, he said, all of these YouTube content creators will be put out of business because they are so wrong. He focuses on the people who are wrong, and those are the people he attacks. The people who are, guessing around. And that's what a lot of the so-called green team people are doing. They're keeping people on there because they're guessing around. And it's one guess after the next. And then the next week, it's a different guess, and so on. So he goes for the very easy. And one of you has sent me a wonderful, beautiful email. Oh, one of you just said, did you catch that he wears sleep pants to bed when it's cooler weather? Which it was. They said he was last seen wearing sweatpants and a long-sleeved shirt when he went to bed. Sleep pants are normally referred to as sweatpants. Yes, that's very good point. That whatever he went to sleep in is what he disappeared in. Very likely. It's highly, highly, highly likely. So I'm not going to name the person who just sent me this message. I know she will have no problem with me reading it on the air, but until I get confirmation, I will just read it without the. Let me just show you on the screen. Wait a minute. Because it's really good. It's really spot on, man. Spot on, spot on, spot on. Now you won't be able. Okay. I have to say this. What you said about CP, how he finds the weakness in an argument, and most people concede and let him win. That is so true, what you said. People let him win for reasons other than him having a good argument, because he doesn't have any. He doesn't know how to argue. He does not know how to win an argument ever. Not with his words, not with his knowledge, not with his intelligence. He doesn't know, and he knows it, and he's learned it probably very early in school, that when others were talking about certain things, he was unable to follow. But he also learned probably, maybe he was good in sports and able to intimidate people. I think that's what he learned very early on. He raises his voice, he threatens. That is his way of winning. Can you still see the screen? Okay. Let me read you the whole thing. Don't let me get sidetracked here. I have to say this. When you said what you said about CP, how he finds the weakness in an argument and most people concede and let him win, so he feels intellectually and morally superior, therefore feels respected. That's it in a nutshell. Yes, at that moment, he tells himself that he's at least intellectually close to equal, which he knows he's not most of the time. And that's also why he chooses certain kinds of lowlifes that he calls in on. He calls their shows because he feels like they're even dumber than me, but they know he had something to do with it. But that's their way to have a following and have viewers, to have Proudfoot on there. So they tell him exactly what keeps him on. And again, he tells himself, or in his own mind, it is because they respect him, or maybe even he knows they don't believe him, but he gets a sense of moral superiority. These people are even worse than me. They don't even have anything to do with this, but they're becoming almost like accessories, helping me with my damage control. Therefore feels respected. That's it in a nutshell. That's why he continually describes himself as respectful. Absolutely. Respect is this key word. He's itching to tell the real story, like you said, to prove how people are wrong. Absolutely. For the first time in his life, he knows what other people do not. For the first time in his life, Chris Proudfoot knows something that others want to know more about, and people are guessing about. The way he comes off, the reason he keeps calling in and feels the need, because he finally found some people, a lot of people, who don't know something that he knows. And that's why I said before, he is conflicted. On the one hand, of course, he doesn't want us to find out what happened to Sebastian, but on the other hand, ooh, man, the dude is itching. He's thinking, wow, I can't, oh, crap, man, I want to talk. I want to, when he listens to somebody on the air, somebody who makes the wrong guess, like I said, there are very few people I listen to, and I always, recommend, be very careful with your time and your energy, protect it. Don't allow yourself to sit there and listen when you realize people are guessing around and there's a lot of dead air. And all of a sudden there's a panel of 5 people, all of a sudden somebody says, well, what if? BS. Get the hell out of here. They schedule their lives, but not based on something new being there. They create the new evidence in a title, and then there is absolutely not a thing. I like what Sweetie Pilo does. She does her lives when there is something. It also means she doesn't do it every day twice, like many of these guys do. They're filling dead air. and they want to keep you on. Don't be like the masses. The masses always get it wrong, people. Be the few that are not controlled by what other people want them to listen to, but you control, which is the same with Chris Mcdana. When he had even some statement analyst on there, and they were just, there was zero, there was nothing coming out of it. It was stretched out over 2 hours something, and there was not, if you don't benefit, if they're not trying to get to the point, and you sense absolutely zero energy and zero desire to solve anything, don't stick around. Chris McDonough, I think, was well trained. And, he knows how to get the interviews that later qualified analysts can use in order to determine what actually took place. But he was not one of those. Now, of course, he has his own channel. And the interview room is actually not a bad name, because what he's good at is getting interviews. And he lets people talk. And that's what I love. But stay the hell away from there. When he has a panel of people guessing around, throwing theories around, you should have done that in private. The CBS special about John Benet Ramsey, that was a great one. That was excellent. And they had the really top qualified people on there who have previously already examined and come to a conclusion together. That's what you do. Not have a ton of people on your panel and talk about, well, what, and no. They want to keep you on the air. Don't do it, man. Seriously. I rather watch like certain, whatever comedies I'm into or whatever, something I like to watch. But then when I get to a case that's a real case, my need for entertainment is already satisfied. I'm already like, okay, let me just get straight to what matters. I have no time, no patience, and zero tolerance for anybody wasting my time with anything and my energy. Oh, she just emailed me. Let me see what she says. I think she says, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Wait. Of course you can. But thank you for asking. Julia Turner. She wrote me this. And I absolutely love it. Because sometimes you guys are expressing things to me the way I was trying to say them. Let me finish. Respect is this keyword. He's trying to, and by the way, the types of people that always talk about respect, gang members, convicts, those are the types of people that always talk, oh, respect, man. How many times at the work that you do you hear people talk about respect? Well, respect is expected, but not talked about all the time. For the first time in his life, okay, I said, everybody I tell about this wait a minute. Yeah. Everybody I tell about this case at first asks the same questions. Why does he sit on YouTube? He thinks he gets respect that way. This is very hard to understand for anybody who has an IQ over 92. But you need to realize that the world as it is looks different to somebody like Chris Foot. From his perspective, the whole world looks different than it looks to most of you. And I'm saying this because I was amazed when I first started these types of videos, how good the comments were, especially compared to what I look at on X. It's a cesspool out there. An absolute cesspool where even the people who have good minds get sidetracked by complete nonsense. And what I realized, of course, was that you can never think that the average person thinks a certain way just because what you hear and what you read is from the dumbest and the loudest people, usually. So I realized, especially from many of the private messages I've received, and of course I'm keeping these to myself as I do everything that comes to me privately unless I have permission. I am doing what I can to convey to you that what you think you can never run away from and you can never be afraid of. And whenever people try to guilt you into anything, you shouldn't say that about Seth. You can say, what? Who the hell are you? Who the hell are you trying to censor me? But it shows me that people are being censored. And it tells me there are many people out there, which now has been confirmed to me, which do think exactly along the same lines. They think around the exact same lines. And it's not a surprise. At least it shouldn't be. So Proudfoot is not the norm, and neither are the people who are yapping and talking about Team Green and we are support and the virtue signaling and all of that. We need to figure out what happened here. And the question is, was it premeditated? And I will not get to this yet. I'm not going to. I will not determine this. I've known good analysts who made mistakes being too fast, giving into the pressure from the public. But you need to let it come to you. It's amazing. It's amazing, Proudfoot. Yes, it's absolutely amazing. What is amazing? Well, it would be amazing if you could say to everybody, see, this is what we did to Sebastian. Not what you said, not what you try to guess at. It's amazing because within the past couple of weeks, we got 2 cases. A 15-year-old boy. Not our 15-year-old son. Not our 15-year-old boy. Not this 15-year-old boy. A 15-year-old boy. Just randomly. Just anybody. Anyone. Just nothing. He's nothing to you. He's nothing to Chris. Absolutely nothing. And it probably took something out of him in the beginning to address Sebastian in a respectful manner or without any disrespect, without telling us how bad he was to deal with, how he wet himself, how all of these different things. So the best he can do is offer to you a 15-year-old boy, leaving out any emotions, so he doesn't get tempted to tell you how horrible Sebastian was in his eyes. That has vanished without a trace. That's bragging. When he said he managed to do this without any evidence left behind whatsoever. He's talking about himself. He puts himself into the team of people who managed to do that. Like Julia said it so wonderfully. For the first time in his life, he's done something others cannot figure out, and he loves it. He gets off on that. He loves to sit downstairs in his bar, drink, and call people who are even dumber than him. All the same, they're pretty much the same. He's maybe in a more stable position than they have ever been until now, when they make a significant amount of money. But they're the same types. Illuminati, Proudfoot, they are the same types of people, just different. They managed to get. They had different lives. One was protected by his mommy and grew up a little bit richer or better off. And the others, of course, I don't even want to know how they used to live or what their past is. But I mean, I heard some glimpses. A 15-year-old boy, just a 15-year-old boy that has vanished without a trace. That's keyword, without a trace. He cannot be found. He's gone. He has vanished. That's final. That's pretty damn final. Not he ran somewhere, or he went somewhere, or he disappeared, or he just took off. There is no curiosity here. There's supposed to be what happened to him. We cannot figure it out. Not he has vanished into thin air. That means poof, he's gone. And even Sass picked up on that. He says the children don't just go poof. It's final, man. This guy is gone. Don't worry about it. You have no chance. You got a 22-year-old, 6'4" or 6. That's how tall he was. 6'7", Riley Strain, who I think died 4 days before Sebastian Rogers. This was reported missing. I believe he died on the 22nd, and I still don't know exactly what happened. Last thing I remember having read was that he was highly intoxicated and drowned, and the parents want to sue his fraternity over who knows what. So I don't know if there's foul play involved. I mean, you tell me. I'm focused on what I'm focused on, and I'm really focused on that. And so I don't have so much space for. I can't let myself get sidetracked too much. But so the question whether or not the timing had something, I will get into this later, but not now. Not now, not yet. I'm still looking at more things for me to determine additional surrounding factors and the deeper meaning of why he actually wants to talk about Riley Strain. And of course, it can be an example. And mind you, later he's also going to say something that really stands out. I can only imagine what his family's going through. You're in the same boat, buddy. That has vanished without a trace. You got a 22-year-old, 6'4" or 6'7" college kid from Missouri, that's Riley, who has vanished without a trace. Where Riley has been found. That's a huge significance here. It's like, wow, wow, yeah. What is your significance, Chris Foot? What is so significant about this? Does that even make sense? Is that something that we need to pay additional attention to? It can happen. That's what he's telling us. When Seth said no evidence is also evidence, yeah, I agree with that. To a very to a very significant extent, I do agree with that. No evidence is evidence too. And he keeps repeating, this boy did it with no evidence, with no evidence, no evidence. And of course, people are wondering, how can there be no evidence? How can there be no footprints? Or they dismissed everything, right? The glasses, that one footprint, they dismissed the glasses, very significant. But basically, how many cases have you seen where there was zero evidence? So he's telling you, don't think too much, this can happen. It can happen. He is talking to the public. He is responding to things that have been brought his way. Where people say it cannot be that the boy just disappeared like that and you don't, and he walked away and there's nothing nothing being found. A couple more things. Proudfoot talks about Sebastian's sleeping issues all the time. And here on Web Sleuth, he said he's had sleeping issues. He doesn't really sleep a lot. That's why that's been his whole life. That's not just been like his something. Seth has even mentioned this before. I'm pretty sure as well. Seth has mentioned that. Who cares what Seth has mentioned? You care. Why? Because you have ill intent towards Sebastian. Because you know whatever you say is going to be victim blaming him. So you say, even Seth said it. Because we all know Seth would not victim blame his missing child. So he is gaining validity. He's gaining credibility on behalf of Seth, even when he falsely tried to make it look like he had been cleared. He said all three parents. He likes to include himself with the innocent parent. But he says even, I'm pretty sure as well. I don't remember Seth saying that. I'm sure Seth knows about it. I mean, the only time, like I've seen a couple times where he slept really well, but I mean, that's after a hard day of playing. If he's helped with outside work, but for the most part, he's had sleeping issues. Issues sleeping, yeah. I mean, as I say it again, it's not natural for him to be stuck alone in this house with nobody to play with or deal with or of course the boy couldn't sleep, man. And the answer is not to medicate him, but to find what he can do. Take him swimming, take him doing something that he likes. By nature, he loves to run and he loves to swim, but he sat around in this damn house all day long. And they got him, to the point where he couldn't sleep without maybe, Seth said she had a habit of just giving him pills because he couldn't sleep, because he had an active body that needed to be active. So here's something Julia just sent me also.
And does loud noises or certain smells bother him? Just curious, if law enforcement approached him with signs, will he run or melt down? He doesn't like loud noises, but they've known about that from the beginning. So, like, if it's a song he likes, he can turn the volume up, but like fireworks, he can't stand that kind of noise. So, he does have a sensitivity to sudden and loud noises, mostly. Okay.
No.
He said that he likes to hide in small places. Small places. Can you give me an example of like what, where, like how small? Can you elaborate on that for us?
So he has a closet in his bedroom. I mean, it's not a small closet. It's a good sized closet. He will get over and tuck into a corner in his closet when he's playing with his toys or he's doing something he knows he's not supposed to.
It's always about not supposed to.
He goes to the corner.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like this boy was going into a 2x2x2 space and hiding. I mean, he'd like to be in a secluded area.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Okay. Let's see.
But only when he wasn't supposed to.
I don't know who this is, but I don't care either.
Beautiful Sunflower says he said earlier he had his reason, and they all agreed it was best that Sebastian not be around his daughter, and now he says that wasn't the issue. I'm confused by this statement. I guess I must have missed a part of that. Well, to clarify what he said that he didn't have custody of his daughter, so that wasn't going to be an issue.
I don't know who that is. I don't care either. Sorry about wasting 2 seconds of your time. Isn't that interesting? He likes to hide in small closets. Did they say hide actually? In small spaces. Hide in small spaces. In small spaces he felt safe. But remember, when Sebastian was gone, she said for only in 1 minute flat, she looked through the whole house. Does that mean she looked through every small space in that house? 1 minute. She woke up at 6 a.m., supposedly, and then by 6:03 she called Proudfoot. And she, of course, in her statement, she revealed that that was the first thing she did. But this is just another example of how off her lies are, how off she is. And I wish I had something more exciting right now to give to you guys, to give a crescendo on this, but I really don't. So I hope that I will leave it at that, people. So what have we learned? Proudfoot is conflicted. He doesn't want the case solved, but he would love to tell everybody how wrong they are. No, we didn't do it like this. We did it like that. You see, you idiot, get off YouTube. He's itching because that would make him feel even better and more. He would feel like he would get even more respect if he could rub people's noses into whatever is wrong, whatever they got wrong. Which is why he's beating around the bush. But beating around the bush a million times, he's running around the bush again. That's what I'm going to call it from now on. Whenever Proudfoot appears somewhere, I'm going to say he's running around the bush again. Because he can't help it. This is giving him a high. He feels he knows something and he was a part of something that others simply cannot figure out. Like, you see, I'm not a dumbass. I'm not that. I'm smart. You know, he knows what happened to Sebastian. He sees people getting it right here and there, and he sees a lot of wrong guesses, but he always focuses on the wrong. He always focuses on what people do wrong and what their weaknesses are. That's how he survives in this world, by focusing on that. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Mike the Man.